Oh boy, what is up, peeps? Hope we're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Some more daily CS news. This one has been a long-awaited one, and I think one that's probably going to go on for the rest of time. That being Richard Lewis versus Stewie2k has been building up ever since the EG stuff, ever since IEM Dallas. In case you guys missed that interaction, well, we returned to making daily CS news videos just right around that time, and I've been waiting for both of them to speak their case on each other, which has been a wild back and forth. Just in case you guys don't know the history of this, or at least where we're pertaining to, it's after IEM Dallas that Richard Lewis talked about G2 and kind of alluding to Stewie's performance as well. Just shortly after G2 made their miracle run with Stewie2k as a stand-in, they won the entire event, which was pretty crazy to see. We were also there live. I gotta say it was an amazing event, especially on NA soil, to have an American player, the only one in playoffs, to take that miracle run. It was dope. But it was shortly after they took that title and raised the trophy, where, I mean, understandably so, that is the time to do it. Richard Lewis had this to say, tweeting, "Unfortunately, there's no other way to interpret G2's victory against a stacked field at a major tournament as an indictment on Hooksy's tactical approach to the game. Winning an event with a stand-in who played worse than him in all but one series should realistically be the end." He also noted, "Still, while in the past I'd have said Nico as IGL is a poison to success, this new, more mature, experienced Nico can certainly have my blessing to have a crack at it. Also opens up the possibility of adding a bit more firepower to alleviate pressure on Munacy." And so a lot of different people are going to take this tweet differently. You know, you wait till moments after G2 raised that trophy with Stu, and of course, you know, I wouldn't say compliments towards Stewie's performance, which Stewie's performance was also not great at the event. It was not good. I think even Stu would recognize that, at least for me, and you guys, of course, could interpret this differently too. In the moment when I read this, I was like, dang, like, why is everyone hating on Hooksy right after the event, right? We should just be celebrating G2 in their miracle run with a stand-in player like Stu. To win an event like this over the teams they did was crazy. So for me, I was just like, that's a bit negative, right? But on the other side, people are saying that he was giving tribute to people like Munacy and Nico of their efforts, and of course, also doing his job of realizing maybe a weak point in this roster also being Hooksy, despite Stewie's lacking performance, right? You can interpret this a million different ways. Doesn't really matter which way you do, because Stewie and Richard then went back and forth at each other. As Stu fired back, "You're entitled to your opinion, and I respect it. I'll agree that the performance was not on par, even to my own expectations, but you actually don't know jack all about CS inside the server." Richard fires back, "Oh yeah, never had some narcissistic pro." Guys, we're going to see and hear the word narcissistic a lot these next 10 minutes, just so you guys know. And it's a fancy looking word. Shoot this one at me before. "Look at your career trajectory. Until today, Twitter dunks and streaming clips were what you chose over trophies. If you're serious about a comeback, get your head right, unlike the crap you pulled in EG." A reference back to a story that Richard covered extensively about Stewie and his time in Evil Geniuses. I encourage you guys to look it up. It was not a great look for Stu. Certainly his end with EG. Certainly not. And that's what he is referencing here. Finally, they close this out by Jake saying, "Wow, we're still talking about that? F it. Whatever, bro. You stay in that timeline. You win. Could care less what you think." To which Richard said, "Heck of a way to celebrate, bro. Congratulations." And that was, I mean, that was spicy, man. Like, you know, that was a lot of back and forth there, but still, I gotta still say, like, that was such a sick event, dude. I hope we see some events like that. I think G2's won with a stand-in before, but that was some crazy energy. To see this on Twitter, it was also a lot of mixed results. You saw a lot of responses with, of course, standing with Stewie, like, yeah, Richard's just hating. He's just doing his thing. He's just, you know, finding a way to poke a hole in it. It's getting clicks. It's getting views, right? It's making more viewpoints. And there were also people saying, like, "Stu, why are you on Twitter? You're supposed to be celebrating, man." But it's probably hard to avoid some of these things, especially when they're getting a lot of likes and a lot of views. You kind of want to respond in those kind of moments. So it's like, it is what it is, right? Richard's doing his thing, Stewie's doing his thing. Not really judging either side for it, because it creates more content for every CS enjoyer out there. Where it gets spicy, though, is where Stu goes on with Maui Snake. He has a full video on his YouTube channel about this, a great interview also on his Twitch stream, and we broke that down on here on this channel. And it's where Stu brings up the Richard Lewis stuff again, where in summary, Stu says he still has respect for Richard Lewis, has no hard feelings towards him. Also said he was not really giving Stu or G2 the credit in that time just after winning IEM Dallas, and at the end of the day stands by what he said of Richard does not know anything about CS actually being played in the server.
This was my honest approach to why I even responded. I don't have anything against Richard Lewis whatsoever. I never had any bad interactions, never had any bad comments about him. We never really had any bad interactions ever, to be honest. The only interaction that I can clearly ever remember with him for the first time, one of the first moments was at E-League Season 1 when this was not even E-League Major or anything like that. It was the first season of E-League and he was there, and I just remember after that event, all the talent was there, Sue, the old NIP that everyone knows was that NIP, and it was way back. So the first time I met Richard Lewis was there, and I don't even remember how we got to this point of the night, but it was just me and Richard Lewis in his room. We were just all end of the event, we were all talking. I ended up in his room, and Sue was just about to come up as well, and I just had a moment to myself with him, and he was just giving me props, giving me praise, saying that I'm doing a good job, I'm a good kid, I got a good head on my shoulders, blah blah blah, and a lot of words of encouragement. And he didn't even have to do that. I don't know why he did that, but I always took it as a good way to start a relationship, I guess, having it that strong. And since that point, there was never any interaction with Richard Lewis. The next one that I really remember is one in Sweden, the major, a few years ago. And it was just, I think you might have been there too. I think it was just a dinner, and he was there with Thorin. We just all went to dinner. It was me, Zeus, Ricardo, and a bunch of the talent, and Richard Lewis and them, and we greeted each other. We said, hey, blah blah blah, and that was pretty much it. And since the EG video that he made, honestly, when he made it, I also thought yo, he's just doing his job, I guess. He can say all the shit he wants. I don't blame him. He's doing what he's got to do. And I never even went out of my way to really message him about it. I just kind of took it for what it is, and I never had any disrespect towards him. And then after this event, when I saw him make the tweet, and pretty much he's just trying to do everything he can to take all the credit away, not from just myself, even from G2. Mm-hmm. And I was you don't have to do that. Give credit where credit is due. You don't have to give it to me, but at least show some respect for the team at least. And I responded in a way where he's actually entitled to his own opinion, and I respect it. If he thinks I'm bad, blah blah blah, whatever it is, go ahead. But at least give some credit to the team. You don't have to give credit to me. And I pretty much told him that look, I respect everything that he has to say, and there's no really anything malicious. But in all honesty, the field that I know stuff and know my shit is CS, and I'm gonna tell him that look, you don't know shit about CS, and that's the honest truth. And he took it personal and called me narcissistic, and I think he's projecting, but that's pretty much it. I kind of just all right, he literally just cannot keep the level of maturity, so I kind of just dropped it. He wins, whatever he says, he wins, bro. I just kind of left the conversation from there.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I feel have you seen any other stuff I mean, I think with Richard in general, I think that when it comes to G2, he has had a lot of thoughts over the last few years, and you're unfortunately for that, even though
I just got caught in the crossfire. Huh?
Exactly.
And all that is fine and dandy, but I think a lot of us could agree, at least when I was listening, you don't make a statement like that about Richard without probably prompting a response from Richard. I think everyone in the chat, I think Maui knew it. Okay, you're poking the bear. There's definitely going to be a response about this. And have you guys ever thought, at the end of the day, these two guys are just having their feelings? It's not that big of a deal. Clearly they are butting heads on this topic. They have very different viewpoints and very different attack styles when going back at each other, or also kind of similar attack styles. They go for the throat when they do fire back. And yes, this prompted Richard to have his own response to Stewie, where at first he kind of breaks down, and it's at full length on his Twitch channel. He talks about this for about an hour, and then also talks about this with Maui and Thorn even more. He talks about that EG situation and how it kind of shaped the trajectory of what became Stewie's career. And he culminates this on a nasty speech towards Stu, pretty much being look at your career trajectory. you should be disappointed what your career has become.
Can't forget about it. His career trajectory could have been totally different. Now, obviously, look, at the end of the day, it was evil geniuses. It was doomed to fail anyway. In fact, you could probably make an argument Stewie did him a favor. But it's still, like, is it a shitty thing to cost someone their job? Yes or no? Especially when they've done nothing wrong. And if you say, well, it's complicated, no, you're being disingenuous. And that's literally what Stewie did. So I don't know why it's, again, not a big deal to people, because it was certainly a big deal to Malik. He hasn't bounced back at all. And so, anyway, you know, yeah, I did the EG video and a series of videos and a series of reports. That org had got to the point where it was affecting people's life, you know, force, life essence. People were being harmed, essentially. And yeah, I'm not going to let that fucking slide. I'm never going to turn a blind eye to that in esports. These are young, fucking vulnerable adults. But more importantly, when you give the keys to people who aren't emotionally mature enough to fucking do it, like, you saw what happened. EG did nothing. Stewie went to Pro League as an IGL when they realized they couldn't qualify, disrespected his opponents, disrespected the tournament by saying, I don't care about the last game. Now, by the way, there was a theoretical argument that if EG had finished bottom again at that tournament, they could have been removed from the league entirely, costing them millions of dollars. Stewie didn't care. Stewie didn't care about his own employer. And this is why him now framing himself as some sort of hero, like, respect my teammates, bro. You didn't even respect your teammates. You didn't respect the org. You didn't respect your paycheck. You didn't respect your coach. You don't respect anyone but yourself, kid. And that's the problem. That's where you're at right now. And people might fucking glaze you, all these little fucking weirdo. By the way, good luck milking this shit, because it goes 8K after the tournament, 3K, you're hovering at 2.5. You're going to be back to like sub 1K views as a fucking one of the greatest NA players of all time, not on a pro team. I don't know, brother. Like, at some point, there has to be a come to Jesus moment for you. You have got to see this for what it is.
Like the end there saying you wasted your talent and you wasted your career. That's open to a lot of different interpretations. For me personally, when I hear that, I'm like, dang, that is like a really harsh thing to say towards a kid who has been very successful. When you compare it to any CS career out there, especially a North American career, any NA pro with a major and some title wins, he's done well for himself, right? Like, I think a lot of CS pros, I think it's fair to say, would aspire to have a career like Stewie. That's how I see it. There is a separate viewpoint where people are like, he could have achieved so much more. And I think that is where Richard's coming from, but he says it real prickly. And I definitely, I feel like that would hurt to hear, you know, someone say that about your CS career when you think you've done so much. But he definitely sets those expectations of, you know, who Stewie could have been. And that was a big part of his speech continuing on.
But you can't, and no one else is going to give it to you straight. Now, we ain't got that kind of relationship. You can fuck off as far as I'm concerned. Like, after what you tried to imply about me, you went beyond a line I'm going to ever sort of, you know, forgive and forget over. But I will just say this, like, at EG, the facts don't lie. For all that time, you disrespected the org, you disrespected the brand, you disrespected the managers that had given you autonomy, you disrespected your paycheck, you disrespected your coaches, and you sat smoking your mind into fucking mush, grinding Valorant for hours at a time, hoping to go pro over there and putting feelers out. And we all know who you talked to and what your aspirations were, right? That to me is disrespectful. That to me is you've given up on the game. You've given up on yourself at that point, frankly. So, you know, nah. Like, making the EG video wasn't so much about you. It was more about a dysfunctional org. But yeah, you were part of that dysfunction. You were empowered by bad people to be a bad person yourself. And you took every fucking opportunity that they gave it to, you know, that they gave you, and you fucking ran with it. And you just wasted everyone's time, and you wasted your time. You wasted your career. I've said it many times. I don't like the timeline we're in, where I have to watch fucking this version of Stewie, can't hang at tier 1 anymore. You know, fucking grinding shitty, meaningless pugs, playing with the mythic guys. Like, you should be on a tier 1 team. you should still be the smoke criminal. But like I say, man, you've wasted your talent. You wasted your career. And an aberration winning Dallas because of better players, it don't change that, bruv. It doesn't. And you should look at the totality of your career, and you should feel sad.
And then we get to the part where they're just going back. Stewie called Richard Lewis a narcissist, and then Richard's like, I'm not a narcissist. I don't have all the qualities of a narcissist, and then lists all the qualities that Stewie has that maybe aligns with being a narcissist. So, like, I don't know who you guys think is a narcissist, but they're firing back and forth at each other.
I don't think people understand what narcissism is. Like, I don't believe everything I do is right. I don't believe all the things I've ever done in my life are totally correct. I don't believe that, for instance, my way is always the infallible way, right? I don't. And I'm more than capable of admitting that. I do not fit any of the fucking textbook narcissism definitions at all. But somebody does. I mean, for example, what can you say about a player who he's got to be the IGL? He's got to pick the team. He doesn't work for a coach. He fucking absolutely won't even look at a coach when they're talking to them. Won't even add them on Steam Friends. I don't respect you. I know my ways, right? Won't even accept olive branches from people because he knows he's right. What does it say about somebody that chews up a much more tenured and experienced leader on stage for the whole world to see, like he did with Fallen in that clip, literally calling him bad at the game in the middle of a match, right? All the clashes that were going on back in Team Liquid, and what did they do? Dude, even before Stu Mania had sort of took over, right? Remember, at the major that they won, famously, he was walking off saying, I don't want to play with that guy, talking about fucking Skadoodle. So, I don't know. Looks pretty narcissistic to me, bro. And so, obviously, over at fucking EG, when I did that, it's like, you have to understand, it was part of a larger puzzle. Do I care that in the long term that Stewie treated his coach like shit? I mean, I'd known Malik a long time. Malik lost his job because of Stewie, because Stewie refused to give him a chance. Now, listen, Stewie can publicly say, oh, forget about it, bro. Malik can't forget about it. His career trajectory could have been totally different. Now, obviously, look, at the end of the day, it was evil geniuses. It was doomed to fail anyway.
At the end of the day, I'm hoping it was all banter between Richard Lewis and Stewie. It was a great run by G2 and a well-timed tweet by Richard Lewis that, of course, was going to be fired back from Stewie. And, of course, Stewie was going to say something that Richard had to fire back again. And then, of course, Richard's going to say something that Stewie might want to fire back again. They have some very similar styles. It's kind of ironic now, but it seems very clear the two butted heads on this topic, but I'm just curious what you guys think about it. I don't think neither side is necessarily in the wrong. I think both sides have done little things here and there that could have been worded better or didn't have to be said at all. But at the end of the day, it's content for the Counter-Strike community. Richard Lewis versus Stewie2k following G2's miracle run at IEM Dallas, where he did stand in, and we still don't know the future of what Stewie actually wants to do. Coming off a performance that I don't think embodied who Stu really was. Like, he had that aura. He had a great run. That is true. But without G2 being a part of that, does he take home the title? I would think not. And even he himself called it a magical run. So for me, the more important thing is, where does he go from here? Where does that career go? And I think we'll be hearing more from both of these guys in the future. What do you guys think? Till next time, please take care of yourselves. We'll see you back here sometime soon. All right, ta-ta.